All righty. Well, we find ourselves all in the same boat right now. Ergo-Flex has asked myself, Dr. Mayer, Dr. Deramus, Dr. Barlow, and Buzz to come on and share their experiences, share some research that they've done. And they asked me to moderate it, most likely because I'm the best looking out of the four.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
The doctors in technology. So again, if during the one of the doctors, if they're talking, you have a feature at the bottom of your or maybe at the top, that you feel free to raise your hand if you have a specific should be talking about a lot of maybe if you have a question, just feel free to raise your hand and then post the question in the chat. And then we'll allow you to come in and ask the question. Hopefully we can get it answered for you. If you can't, we can find out the answer after we get off. So wanted to give you a little agenda here that we're going to go through. We're going to start with Dr. Deramus is going to talk about navigating your financial options during this time of crisis. Then we'll move to Dr. Mayer. He's going to keeping your family, staff, and patients safe from COVID-19 and beyond. Then we'll move to Dr. Barlow on how to market and it costs you nothing but your time. And then we'll close with Dr. Buzz, key steps to turning COVID-19 into an opportunity. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you, Tony, and let you take it from here, and then when you're done, we'll pass it back to Dr. Mayer.
You bet. You bet. Let me go pull this up.
So let me send you over the host. You should get that.
Got it. I got it. Let me go and share my screen. Can you guys see it okay?
Yep, that's your desktop. Got it.
Got it. Okay, here we go. All right, so I get the fortunate opportunity to talk about some of the things that is on everyone's mind right now, which is what do we do, as far as all these loans, what are we going to do, how to make this. Some of you guys have been closed down completely. Some of you, like most of us, are operating maybe at 50%, maybe less, something of that nature. But I'm going to go through some of this bill that was just passed, and I can tell you there's been a tremendous amount of confusion and a lot of questions, not just from us, but from the people that are lending the money as well. It's been a really tough time. So I may be repeating as I go through this. If you guys have spent time looking at this bill, or if you've read some summaries from other places, I may be repeating some of this to you, but I can tell you that there are a lot of people out there that are still don't know. They just don't know what's happening with it. Now, field calls daily from other chiropractors that are telling me certain things that maybe a banker or something told them that's completely wrong. Now, it's not the banker's fault, because the bankers are in the same boat that we are. There was a big confusion because we had the Senate bill, right, that wasn't signed by the president, but the Senate bill came out, and that's what we were using as our platform to say what's coming up. But the Senate bill and the House bill are two completely different things, right? The House bill is what counts because that's what the president actually signed. And I've read both of those. And I can tell you there's a lot of stuff in that Senate bill that is not inside the House bill. So we had to be real careful, but this created a lot of confusion. Now, what I did in this is I actually used the exact language that the bill says. I didn't summarize it. I cut out a couple of words because it's very boring material to go through, but I wanted to use the exact language in the bill. That way you understand that this is coming from the horse's mouth. Okay, so we'll talk about the CARES Act, but I want you to know that, so if you look into this, if you want to spend the time reading the bill, make sure that you have an HR before what you're reading. An HR 748, not the Senate bill, which is S3548. There are going to be 3 sections inside that bill that you want to pay attention to. The most important, in my opinion, is going to be Section 1102 that talks about the Paycheck Protection Program, and Section 1106 that will speak about the loan forgiveness. We'll discuss the emergency auto grants a little bit. It's a very short section, but you can read that at Section 1110. And I want to start with the idle loan first because idle loans have been around for a long time. It was actually the first loan that we had available to us when this issue hit. And there are some very distinct differences between the idle loan and the Paycheck Protection Program, or the PPP, that we'll be discussing today. Now, I'll jump into this later on, but just to let you know, because this is a common question, is can I do both? And I will tell you that yes, you can do both, but you have to be very careful about what you're doing with this, okay? So some very distinct differences in idle loan. Your lender is going to be the SBA. When you get into the Paycheck Protection Program, you're using SBA lenders, preferred lenders for that. The maximum loan amount for this, for an idle loan, is $2 million. Most of you have heard about this idle advance of $10,000. So if you decide that you want to go ahead and apply for an idle loan, they will give you a $10,000 advance, whether or not you decide to take the loan or not. Okay, so you can look at that as free money in a way. I don't think anything's for free, but you can look at that as free money. The interest rate on this is 2.75 to 3.75, depending on what type of operation. Most of you guys in your businesses now are 3.75% interest, which is not as good as prime right now, but it's still better than most people are getting on their loans. Now, the major difference here too is that the idle loan can be used for not just very specific things such as payroll and rent and some other things we'll discuss in a minute, but it can be used for financial obligations and operating expenses as well. Okay, so it has a far-reaching, much further-reaching ability to take care of those things outside of what they set up for the PPP. Now, you can't have a repayment up to 30 years. I don't think anyone, unless your building was completely destroyed or something of that nature, is going to be accessing that much money and want to pay it over a 30-year period. Another major difference is if you're under $200,000 with an idle loan, there's no personal guarantee. But if you go above that, you have to have a personal guarantee. With that, there will be collateral. They're going to be just attaching themselves to whatever they possibly can to make sure that they have some collateral on the loan. And the biggest one, which we'll go into a little while with the PPP, is the forgiveness aspect. There is no forgiveness with an idle loan. I actually got a call from someone today. The CPA contacted this individual, chiropractor, and said that, hey, the IRS has now allowed forgiveness of the idle loan. I was like, that can't be true. And so, well, send me the link. Well, the CPA was talking about the idle advance. And maybe there's confusion from the CPA to the chiropractor, or maybe the CPA was wrong. I don't know, but there's no forgiveness on idle loan. But there is going to be forgiveness on the idle advance of $10,000. So big question, can you secure both loans? This is a quote directly from the Small Business Administration from the SBA. An applicant may receive an idle loan and a paycheck protection loan as long as the costs being paid with each are different. Okay, so no double dipping. The language in the bill is duplicating. You can't pay for the same bill twice. But you can utilize these, both of them. I want you to remember this date, though. I want you to remember the March 27th date, because that's going to be important. That's the date that Trump signed the bill. It's the date the bill was enacted. It'll play an important role here just a little bit when we start talking about forgiveness. The biggest thing about this that I'm concerned with, however, is they're authorizing up to almost $350 billion. Now, sounds like a lot of money, but really it isn't. If you think about the number of businesses are being shut down across this entire country, and the fact that some of these loans can actually be up to $10 million, which most people won't do that. But let's say we have a number of people that will get a loan for $1 million. So it's only 349 companies that can do that in the entire country. So not to scare anybody with this, because I do think that there'll be some more appropriations later on. But if you watch a lot of these videos online, they'll tell you it first come, first serve. And so you've got to be careful, because this well may dry up pretty quickly. But I do want to reassure you that I do feel that very quickly they're going to realize before the date of June 30th that they're going to have to fund more money for this. There's two covered periods here. You have a covered period for the actual PPP, and you have one for you. Now, the Paycheck Protection Program is going to run, essentially, it's going to be available from February the 15th, but it's going to end on June the 30th. Now, what that means on June, they'll still be taking applications on June the 30th. So that means that your term, I mean, your covered period is that 8-week period as soon as you sign on the dotted line. Okay, so if you decide to put an application in on June 30th, you'll have 8 weeks beyond that period, your 8-week period, to pay for your payroll and these other things we'll go into in just a minute. Okay. So what are the requirements here? Good faith certification, when you read that, for you guys that have been around for a while, remember back in the old mortgage days, and they had what they called the stated income, stated assets, right? So you say you wanted $1 million home, the mortgage lender would ask you, well, how much money do you make? You go, oh, $500,000. They just make it up. And they said, that sounds good. You got $1 million house. Now, this is not going to be the same as that. Okay, banks are going to be a little bit more stringent on what they're getting from you, but you've got to be honest about this. You've got be honest about what you're actually losing out on, and as I'll talk about in a little bit, don't be too creative with this. Okay, this may get you in trouble if you get too creative. You also have to state that the uncertainty of current economic conditions makes necessary the loan request to support the ongoing operations. Listen, if you're hurting, you got to let them know that. But if you're not hurting, you're doing fine. Let's say if you're a toilet paper manufacturer, for example, you're probably not hurting right now. You're probably doing okay. So I don't think those guys will be going for a loan anytime soon. But be honest about where you are right now. You know, I think that even 50% reduction in our headcount or revenue is a significant condition for us to look for these loans. That you intend to use the money to retain workers, maintain payroll, or make a mortgage, lease, or utility payments. Okay. You cannot. Now, this is where you cannot have an application pending or received for a loan under the subsection for the same purpose and duplicative amounts applied for or received under a covered loan. Now, it's a long, wordy sentence, but what that's telling you right now is if you're applying for a loan for the same exact purpose, you can't do that. Okay, now that's going to be different from the EIDL and the PPP if you do them separately, if you do them for different amounts. But you cannot do it if it's for duplicative amounts. These are really good terms too. I mean, this is, you're probably not going to find a loan anytime soon that's going to have these type of terms for you. There's absolutely no collateral, no personal guarantee is required. Now, some of you guys, and maybe if you read the old versions, because things are changing daily, so you've got to stay on top of this. In the bill, it's going to state that interest will be no more than 4%. So now they've come back and they've said the interest is no more than 0.5%. That you're never ever in your lifetime going to find a loan that's at 0.5%, unless you buy a truck or a vehicle or something like that at 0% interest for a while. Another thing that changed too, because originally you had it at 4%, they said, okay, you can take up to 2 years. Up to 10 years to pay this. From what I understand at this point, that seems that's changed. They have a maturity of 2 years now. So let's say, for instance, if you decide to take out a little bit more than you need, and at the end of it, you have quite a bit of money left, looks like you may have 2 years to pay that off. So maybe you should think about that. If you have no other ways to deploy that cash, then maybe you ought to rethink taking out too much. This will have a deferment period of 6 to 12 months. It's an automatic deferment period of 6 months. But you can get up to 12 months if circumstances apply to that. But automatically, you'll have 6 months before you start making any payments on this loan. You don't have to show that you can borrow money anywhere else, and you typically have to do that. And there's no prepayment penalty with this at all. So how much can you borrow? And this is where it's going to be a little bit complicated for people because there's so many other things that are involved in this other than just looking at your payroll. But we know that there's a $10 million limit. I don't think anyone on this call is going to be needing $10 million. Everything that you're going to do now is going to be based on what our payroll cost. Now, the original House version of the Senate version of the bill was a little bit different than that. I actually like the House version a lot better because it is going to give you more money. The original House version said, so the amount of the loan is going to be your 1 month average of your payroll cost, your rent, all these other things they're allowing you to use this loan for, but that's how they were factoring in what kind of money you were going to get from this. And if you look at that, 1 month of those items are really not enough to cover what you're going to have to cover over an 8-week period. I still think that on this deal with the 2.5 times your payroll cost is still going to be somewhat limited, depending on if you furlough a bunch of people and whatnot. But it's not going to be there's not going to be a pot of gold at the end of the rainbow once it's all said and done. Now, the 2.5 times the average monthly amount from the 1 year period. Now, that 1 year period is going to be either February the 15th or March 1st. You decide. Either February the 15th or March 1st of 2019 to June 30th, 2019. Okay, so that's your, if by chance, however, if you didn't exist, and we have one of our clinics, we opened that up in August of last year. So we weren't around during that time. So you can look at the cost from January the 1st to February the 29th as well. There may be some flexibility here too, because let's say if you've had a huge growth over the last year and you've hired so many other people, it's almost difficult for you to go on a historical basis when the last quarter your expenses were that much more. So the banks are going to hope they'll be able to decide how they want to handle these, and hopefully there'll be some flexibility for you guys. They've had a lot of growth over the last year. So let's define the payroll costs as a relatively long list, but let me list every one of these. Obviously, salary, wage, commission, or similar compensation makes sense. Hopefully none of you guys are taking tips, but by chance if you are, you can include that as well. Any PTO stuff that you have, vacation, parental, family, medical, or sick leave. Now that's going to, payroll costs will be for the past and also the future, the present time too. So those payroll costs will include some of this stuff that with a sick leave that we may be dealing with here in the next few weeks. Any type of allowance for dismissal, separation, severances, or something of that nature will be considered into this. For you guys that actually have health insurance for your employees, that will be considered as well. Any retirement benefits, let's say if you're doing some type of a matching program through 401k. Any taxes, employee taxes, and then some of you may not actually be incorporated at this point. You may be operating as a sole proprietor. So there's some language in the bill for you too, that you can look at your wages, commissions, and even this little line here that says earnings from self-employment, net earnings from self-employment, meaning profit, as long as that's not more than $100,000. And we'll get further into this in just a second. But if you make more than $100,000, that's all excluded from this. So what's not included in this stuff in the payroll costs? Well, any employer owner compensation in excess of $100,000. So anybody, if someone's making $150,000, you can only turn in the $100,000. That's it. Initially, when the bill first came out, we were a little concerned with this because the way it reads, it almost says anyone that makes $100,000 is completely excluded from that. And obviously that wouldn't be fair for employers that have multiple people making $100,000 a year because they get excluded from the loan amount. But it's just anything that's in excess of $100,000. Now, I try to do the good thing for you guys. I went into the IRS code. I recommend you don't do that. It's very long. I even went to chapter 22, 21, 22, and 24. Sat there for about 5 minutes, took a sip of bourbon, and closed the thing out. It's just too much. So if you want to know more about that line, please ask your CPA or someone that really understands that. But I'm sure that if you're in this position, you know what this means. Any compensation of an employee whose principal place of residence is outside the United States. Listen, the reality with this whole thing is that you're going to have people from countries like, places like Nigeria and other places are going to try to apply for these loans. It is what it is, right? But you've got to be here in the U.S. and hopefully we can keep that under control. So now we know that this Sick Leave Act, which was, and the Family Leave Act that was just passed, you do receive credits, right? So if an individual in your office gets sick or has a family member or maybe a child care worker that can't work because of it, they have to go home and take care of their kids. There are certain credits that you get for this at the end of the year. Now you have to pay for, let's say for instance, a sick leave type of situation, you have to pay for that 100% of the employee's salary for up to 80 hours, which is 2 weeks. But you get a credit later on for that. So you can't include this into your payroll costs because you're going to get the money returned later at a later date. So what can you use the loan for? Now, payroll costs we just mentioned, and all the things in the top line here, health insurance, employee salaries, and so forth is there. But the additional things that we can pay for with this loan, with the loan proceeds, any type of mortgage obligations we have, any interest in that nature, interest, not mortgage obligation, the interest of that, you can pay for it. Rent, any type of rent. Now, I was on a call with a banker for about an hour today, and we discussed that because it seems, when they say including rent under a lease agreement, you almost automatically assume that, well, that means equipment too, right? It's not just the rent of my building. Well, remember, the banks are going to determine and interpret this in their own way. And according to her and her bank, rent is, look, it's for your dwelling. It's not for, a piece of equipment that you're leasing or renting out at this point. So, but I think that may be defined further by each one of your banks. And then utilities. And someone asked me the other day, said, what utilities are included, but this is the exact language in the bill: electricity, gas, water, transportation, telephone, or internet. That's what's included. If you ask me later on what transportation is, I don't know because I don't deal with it. And then the interest on any other debt obligations that were incurred before the covered period. I've got to get further clarification on that and what that means, but is the last item in the bill when it's discussing what we can use the loan money for. This is the one that everyone wants to know about, right? So I take out some money and then I don't have to pay it back. That's awesome. Love that idea. It's in section 1106 if you want to read it. It's not a very long section, but let's go ahead and cover some of it for you because the loan can be, or portions of the loan can be forgiven, but let's be very, very careful about what that means. Here's their definition. An eligible recipient shall be eligible for forgiveness of indebtedness on a covered loan in an amount equal to the sum of the following costs incurred and payments made during the covered period. Now, I will tell, I've read this, I've been through this House bill probably 4 or 5 times, and this language is boring. It's the worst language you probably ever go through. But basically what they're saying is that any of these costs, payroll costs, any payment of interest on any covered mortgage obligation, or your rent, remember, any payment on any covered rent obligation and any utility payment, those are your things right there. That's what can be forgiven. And that's it. None of your marketing costs. There's been some speculation about the actual amount of the loan because there's some language in there about your independent contractors and 1099s. And so all of a sudden we started thinking, well, does that mean everybody that I 1099 can be considered in my payroll costs? But that may not be the case because, some of the lenders are saying, well, it has to actually be included if as a 1099, it has to be included in your P&L under payroll. But if it's designated as an expense on your P&L, maybe that doesn't account for this. And that makes a lot of sense if you do it that way. Now, the amount of the loan, I'm going to go through this formula for you, so just bear with me as I go through this because it's going to be really funny language, but we have an example here in just a few seconds for you. The amount of the loan forgiveness shall be reduced but not increased. Don't think because you took your period, from February 15th to June 30th, 2019, and had less employees, and all of a sudden you had this growth, and then, lo and behold, during the 8-week coverage period, you actually have more employees. There's not going to be more money there. It's just, it can't be increased. It'll be wiped out completely, but it can't be increased. And let me say, so real quick on this subsection B. Subsection B in the bill are just those items that we just covered, okay? These items here. That's the amount you're going to derive from that. Now we're going to take subsection B and we're going to divide that by the quotient of what we have here, which is the average number of full-time employees per month. Okay, by one of two things, and you have a decision. You can make the decision here. I think you look at your numbers and see what's to your advantage with this, but you're gonna divide it by the average number of employees per month during this one period of February 15th to June 30th, or the January 1st to the February 29th. So now this is where it's confusing because even though you got your loan based on numbers back in the last period, right, of 2019, you could still go back in and say, okay, well, here's what we're going to calculate now. Okay, and to create this formula. So for, just an example, let's say we get a loan amount of about $250,000, which I think may be about average for quite a few people. Let's say over that 8-week period that we have payroll costs about $175,000. We look at our rent, $20,000, our utilities at $5,000. So what that does, it gives us a loan forgiveness amount of exactly $200,000 based on what subsection B says. So if we take that amount, okay, and here's the formula, and subsection B just says is your loan forgiveness amount that you calculated times what your current full-time equivalent employees are, divided by your previous full-time equivalent. So remember, that could have been the 2019 period, or it could have been the last quarter for you, or from January 1st to February, through February. And that's going to equal your new forgiveness amount. This can be pretty detrimental to you. I'm telling you, if you don't retain your employees, you could be hit pretty heavily. Now, if you retain them, that's fine, right? Based on the formula, you've got your $200,000 loan forgiveness amount. You know, you've retained all 10 employees, you've got 10 employees. Multiply that times 1 now, so you got $200,000. So that's your loan forgiveness amount. Now, there was also confusion with this too. I got a long letter from an attorney the other day that said their math is completely wrong, because he was reading it as this meant that this would be the reduction, the equals would be the reduction amount taken away from what you had in subsection B. So for example, he thought that this $200,000 would wipe out the entire loan forgiveness, but that's not what it is. It's equaling the new forgiveness amount, okay? Not the amount that you reduce the loan forgiveness by. Hopefully that makes sense. But let's look at this. Let's say you have 10 employees, but then all of a sudden you lose 2 of them. 2 of them don't come back, right? You get your 80% there. And so automatically, with just losing 2 employees, you got knocked for $40,000. And I don't think you're paying these guys that much money. You get hit pretty heavily with this. Now, some of you may say, hey, I'm okay with the hit. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to keep the rest of the money for myself and do whatever I want with it. But to me, that's a major hit. But the reductions, though, will not be implemented. And this is another area of confusion. And you guys have probably heard this, but some banks are saying, well, no, they have different formulas for it. But this is what the bill is saying. And I hope this gets clarified later on. But if fully staffed your employees by June the 30th, I don't care if you took the loan and you furloughed everyone, as long as you bring everyone back by June 30th, what the bill seems to be saying is that you will not be penalized. There will be no reductions for that. Okay, so let me show you exactly what the bill says. The amount of the loan forgiveness shall be determined without regard to a reduction in the number of full-time equivalent employees or a reduction in the salary of 1 or more employees, because remember we have 2. It's a head count or reduction in salary. During the period beginning on February the 20th and ending on the date that is 30 days after the date of the enactment of this act. Remember, we looked at that earlier. What's the date of the enactment? March 27th. So what it seems to be saying is that you can disregard the reduction in the number of employees or the reductions in salary if you furloughed these individuals or reduced their salaries between the dates of February the 15th and then at 30 days after the enactment, which would have been, late April 27th or so. That's what it seems to be saying. During the period beginning on February 15th, ending on the date that is 30 days after the date of enactment of this act, there is a reduction. Okay, so now we're getting to the reduction of salaries as compared to February 15th, 2020, and the number of FTE employees. The same thing, but not later than June 30th. This exact language in the bill. Not later than June 30th, 2020, the employer has eliminated the reduction in the number of FTE employees. The title of that section in 1106 is exemption for rehires. Look it up, read it yourself, but that's what it looks like it's saying to me at this point. So we gotta ask ourselves a question, do we do the loan or don't we do the loan? And I think that most people on this call are in a situation where, we don't know the future. We don't know what's going to be happening 2 weeks from now, much less, 6 or 8 weeks from now. We don't know if as this infection begins to peak, that they're going to shut us down even further. I would suggest that since you have really sweet terms on a deal like this, that you'll never see again, that you really have to consider taking this loan. But you need to be very responsible with what you're deciding to do with this money. So my opinion, and listen, you don't have to take my opinions. I'm just telling you what I know, and I've spent a lot of time looking at this. My opinion is that if the money's there, you should probably do it. You should probably do it. Now the question then becomes, well, should I do an idle loan? It's going to depend on your situation. I'll tell you what we've done, what I've decided to do. I'm going to apply for that only because I don't know what the future holds for us, and we're still in a great position. I'm still going to apply for the idle loans. We're going to do that, and the idle loan is going to take a while to get it approved. So in the interim, we'll apply for our Paycheck Protection Program loan, and then I'll make a decision. I'd much rather have more money sitting there that hell I can hand back to them when it's all said and done if I want to, because I don't want to increase debt unnecessarily if I don't have to. But I'd rather have money sitting there for me, in case something does happen that you can't predict. And I can tell you, this has been a really interesting time for me because most people on this call are very goal oriented, and we live by vision, visualizing and then creating our future, and that's who we are. But it's been really awkward for me lately because I've had to walk this real fine line between pessimism and optimism. Because on the pessimistic side, the reality is there's certain things you can't control. So you really, as a business owner responsible for all those people in your office, you have a responsibility to make sure that they're okay. You can't predict the future. So living in that world of pessimism and saying worst case scenario, what's going to happen here, what I need to do, prepare for that, is very odd, especially for people who are typically on that optimistic side. But on the other side of it, you've got to maintain a good attitude through this process. You have to. In fact, I've dealt with this with a couple of our offices where, the doctors didn't have the right message. They were setting the tone in the wrong way. It was a fear-based tone versus a healing type tone that we should be creating. So keep that in mind as you're going through. I know you're busy. I know you're stressed. But man, you've got to keep a good attitude because everybody feeds off of what you're doing right now. And if you're spreading fear in your office, that's exactly what you're going to get. And your numbers, and that's what we saw. We saw a lot of our offices over the last 2 weeks who were able to maintain a good resemblance of what we were doing. In the office, one particular office, it was not dropped significantly. So if you're having a hard time right now, maybe taking a moment just to recheck your attitude and the attitudes of your staff members to see maybe something's happening there with that. Biggest piece of advice I'm going to give you right now is, and I said it earlier, do not be too creative with this. Listen, there's what's called a hold harmless clause inside this bill, and the lenders aren't at fault. The lenders are scrambling, just trying to get their stuff done. This is difficult for them to handle all these calls that are coming in, but you will be held responsible. And if you are fraudulent or you do something that is not on the up and up with this loan, listen, I guarantee you that the government's going to come back knocking on people's doors in a few years wanting some money back. And please avoid that if you possibly can. So don't try to be too creative. This is not an opportunity to make a bunch of money. It's an opportunity to keep your businesses intact. That's what it's for. Timing is going to be key here too. I want you to think about this. If you don't absolutely need them, because as soon as you get that loan, you sign that dotted line, your coverage period starts. And so I don't think it's smart to pull the trigger too soon, right? Or too early. And it's definitely not smart to pull it too late. So timing is going to be key here. Can you survive through the month of April right now? Be fine. And want to pick up the coverage period in May. That'll be a personal decision that you get to make. But just look at your timing. I know there's going to be a mad rush, because the April 3rd is tomorrow, right? So they're going to be accepting the loans on April the 10th. The independent contractors get their chance at it, and the money's going to go quick. But I'm really interested in your timing here. So make sure that you don't get ahead of yourself with them. Be prepared. This is not a time that you need to be sitting around waiting for someone else to give you information. You got to be prepared. You got to be proactive right now. This is something we've never seen before. And that's why I keep saying that the future is so unknown to us. We hear this word unprecedented from a lot of people. You have to get off your ass and you have to be doing stuff in your business right now because your business needs to survive this. And if you're not prepared, you're not proactive in this time, you're going to miss a lot of things. So please pay attention to what you're doing. And listen, if If you happen to be one of those people that are living in fear, man, you got to find a way to get out of that right now, because a lot of people depend on you and need you, your family, your business, your employees, everybody. Work with your existing bank. People call me all the time and ask me, where can they get the loan? Banks, there are a lot of banks that are opting out of this program. Most banks are only working with their existing clients only. And then some banks are only working with their existing clients first. Okay, so it's going to behoove you to work with your existing bank now. Okay, they'll give you priority versus someone else. And then make sure you understand how your bank's going to interpret the bill too, because that may make a big difference. I alluded to a few things earlier that how they're interpreting them now. Just make sure that you understand how they're going to interpret it, so you're not stuck with a lot of debt at the very end of this, for things that you can't get forgiveness for. Start preparing your documents now. If you haven't done it now, start preparing them now. There's that list of items, the things you need, payroll costs, you need to start listing those down now. Most banks are going to have all of these applications, their own application online. I know there's one that's been floating around from the SBA, but most banks are going to have this stuff online, so you can sign it with DocuSign for various reasons, obviously. And they're going to have other things that you'll be able to access. But start preparing the information they're going to need. You know what that is. Don't wait until next week. Get it done now. By far, and this goes back to being prepared and proactive, what you're doing now is going to determine the future, because right now is not the important time. The recovery is the important time. How you recover from this is going to determine the future here. And it may be a long recovery, maybe a short recovery, but how you do things now is going to determine how well that recovery is going to work in the future. So you have to pay attention to that. You have to be proactive right now. And that's all. I'm going to go and stop sharing my screen here, Randall. And you can take it back to you, brother.
Dr. Deramus, this is Candy Emmerich with First Financial Bank.
Yeah, Candy, I was wanting you to speak up here. How are you?
Yeah, I apologize. You were doing a great job of summarizing what we think we know. I'll just add to that. Our bank's been gearing up to take care of our customers. And what you said is true. It's best to go to your own bank first. The way that they are setting up this program, they're wanting us to expedite these applications. So in doing so, by having a business account already with our bank, it enables us to build the loan docs quickly. That's just an advantage to already being a customer. Doesn't mean we wouldn't do it with a non-customer, but the customers will definitely get in the queue quicker because we already have those corporate or company docs that we'll need. A lot of it is put on the customer as far as coming up with that calculation on how much you think you want to borrow. What will happen with us is once they submit that and get in our queue, it will go to our loan officers. We will more or less confirm their calculation. We'll then send it on to the SBA and they'll confirm it. Then we'll fund the loan. Yep. So that's what we understand right now. Some of the other things you discussed, we're still waiting on clarification from the SBA on exactly what documents they're going to require. But typically it's going to be your 18 tax return, 19 if you filed it, if not a P&L, and then basically your 941s that you filed for a year. So that's kind of what we know right now. Yeah. And so we're trying to gear up. I know at 5 o'clock there was another conference call with some of our people with the SBA trying to get some more clarification. So yeah. It's still in process. We don't have all the answers yet.
Yeah, Kenny, I want to ask you a question. I'm sure you've had a discussion about this this furlough and reduction being forgiven. Yes. What is First Financial's opinion about that?
As of right now, what we're understanding is just we're telling our customers to be careful about what they spend the funds on. Yeah. A lot of our customers have, with the advice of their CPAs, are setting up a new account just for this money so that it'll be easy to track it. Yeah. You know, that just makes it a little simpler in the end. But we've been told as long as they spend it on their mortgage interest or their rent expense and payroll that and utilities that that will be reimbursed.
You know, and let's say just for example, if by chance if they interpret it where you've furloughed a bunch of people and they interpret as that they can't be forgiven, listen, you still got a badass loan.
It's a cheap loan, let me tell you.
Yeah, you're not gonna find
we
that.
don't do those kind of loans, so
No.
Yeah.
And a lot of banks right now are they're not making a lot of money on this. They're making any money on this thing. There's a couple of things they can do, but this is it's a lot of work for them.
Yes,
to try to handle this
it
load.
is. We're doing it for our customers.
Yeah,
no doubt. So,
Randall.
Yep, I had to unmute my audio. Hey, I had a couple of questions that maybe either Candy or you, Andy, could answer, or Tony could answer it. One of the questions I think you answered, but I want to make sure it was, if I have equipment purchased or leased that is financed monthly and as part of my cost of delivering care to my patients, will this amount be eligible for inclusion in my loan package to the bank per the CARES government?
I don't believe it will, but I haven't asked that specific question. I'll try to find out.
Yeah, well, I'll answer the best of my ability, and the answer would be no. Based on what the bill says, this equipment, the idle loan would cover that. If you decided to get an idle loan, it would cover operating expenses like that. But the language on the PPP is very specific on what that money can be used for.
Okay. And you got another question. If 2 team members are let go as of today or tomorrow, then I file for the Paycheck Protection Plan next week. That would put me at 1 full-time staff member moving forward while we work through this mess. And let's say that I do not want to rehire the second member that I'm laying off now, but choose to hire someone new people when business is back to. Would the PPP money be forgiven or no if I return it at least 90% of the payroll by the deadline?
Yeah. So remember,
that's a long one.
Yeah. See if I got all that down here. Listen, when they look at the full-time equivalent employees, it's a head count. Right? I had that question today. It's a head count. So let's say if you have an employee that decides they don't want to come back, that could penalize you, right? Well, you can just hire somebody else and get the head count. Now, I will tell you that there's, I would be real concerned about, I think the employee's going to have a little bit of power here with this. I mean, if you start just firing people, not bringing them back, that may cause some issues. But the answer to the question, as long as you got the same full-time equivalent number of employees, you should be good.
Right. And then maybe this is more for Candy. How long from start to finish to get funded for the EIDL and PP loans?
Well, the banks are only doing the paycheck loan.
I got you. That's right.
So I couldn't answer on the other. And on the paycheck loans, how about if I give you a call tomorrow and let you know? I don't know. We're anticipating it will be a fairly quick process, but I honestly don't have that answer yet. We'll find out. We go live tomorrow, so we'll see.
Well, I feel sorry for you, Andy.
Sounds good.
I can't wait to how your day goes.
Well, man, Tony, we appreciate that you put in the work. I mean, you were the guy in the front row at school for sure.
No, it wasn't. That's why I've been so stressed out.
You spent a lot of time with some boring reading, man. If you started reading IRS code, something's wrong.
Well, they say that alcohol sales have gone up 55%. I think that would talk about my house.
Right.
Randall, I was just going to add that from a conference I was on this afternoon, it seems that a lot of the questions that have been thrown around, I think the IRS has not yet clarified. So I think some of that's still in process.
Gotcha. Makes sense. So, I mean, again, thanks, Tony, for taking the time to do that. And then if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. If we don't get an answer for you today, we'll make sure that we here at Ergo-Flex, we can get you, email you the answer to the question whenever we get it. And then that answer may change. So subject to change, right? So
Right.
next up, we got Dr. Mayer. I'm going to pass it over to you here. Just give me a second here so I can, you should have received the request. Did you get it?
I've got it. We
You
good?
got it? You're good. You can go ahead and take over.
Okay, we're going to talk about, this won't take me nearly as long. My subject's not as complicated as the financial side. So we're going to just talk about some of the stuff you need to have in place right now, what the CDC is recommending, if you're open for business. And I'm assuming most of y'all are open for business. Most of the docs I've talked with are. So I'm just going to talk with some of the stuff we need to do, and then some of the stuff we can do to protect our families and just everything going forward from here. So we need to make sure we have certain policies in place right now to protect the safety of our staff and our patients right now. And the Center for Disease Control has put out a guideline for healthcare facilities. And so you can always just go to their website and print up, there's a bunch of different posters and stuff. So we got posters all over the office right now about hand washing technique, you know, symptoms of COVID-19, what you can do to protect yourself. We have several of those just up around the office so patients can see it. But this is some of the stuff that you need to be doing. And some of the stuff, I pray to the Lord that you're doing already. So it won't be a big deal, but you're gonna just make some tweaks to stuff. So one of the things is you've got to clean and clean again your office. Right now, you cannot be too clean in your offices. So I want you to disinfect with a hospital grade disinfectant, your tabletops, your door handles, your light switches, any surface that can be touched needs to be disinfected. And that should be disinfected first thing in the morning and then before you leave at night. And then I have my office wiping down door handles and surfaces that are touched by patients several times an hour right now. And obviously your tables need to be wiped down between every single patient right now. And so I'm actually wetting down my tables, and I'm actually letting them air dry right now. It's really slowing down my patient care a little bit, but at this point, we're just not being too careful at that point. I recommend removing some chairs from your waiting room. We've got the 6-foot rule right now. You got a social distance, a minimum of 6 feet. So we have removed several chairs from our waiting room. And in Texas, we've got to maintain less than 10 people, supposedly. So what we're doing is if we get more than that people coming in, what we do is we actually have them wait in the car and we'll text them when they come in. Okay. I would have your staff call your patients, make sure they know you're open. I think a lot of patients are shocked when we called and said we're open for business. So you want to make sure they know that. And then ask them, hey, if you have any symptoms of fever, respiratory infection, anything like that, or been in contact with anybody who is known or possibly infected with COVID. And if they are, we're rescheduling those patients. You've got to reschedule, okay? So anyways, in that case, you're going to reschedule them for a minimum of 14 days out. And a lot of states are recommending you're only treating urgent care or acute care. And I had this talk with Andy yesterday. In most states, it's a recommendation. And so you can do with that what you want. So that's really your call on how you want to approach that. So what they're recommending doing is every patient walking through your door, you're scanning for temperature. If anybody's got a temperature, they're back out the door. You're not treating them that day. Patients walking in with like a 91.9 or 99.1 or 2. What I have them do is I just have them wait outside the door for a minute, and then we rescan them. And we actually haven't had anybody that's come in with a fever that's been high and has remained high. Again, you're gonna have to reschedule those patients for a minimum of 14 days out, okay? As patients come in your office, straight into your restroom, they need to be washing hands, okay? And then we're having everybody sign a form, and there's 3 main questions that the CDC is recommending you ask. 1, have you had any symptoms of a respiratory infection, cough, sneeze, shortness of breath in the past 10 to 14 days? I live in Texas right now, and pollen counts are about as equivalent to the sand on a beach right now. So you've got to be careful how you're doing that. If I got people coming in, they've got a little bit of a stuffy nose and no temperature, we're just treating them just like regular patients. The second question is, have you been in contact with anyone who has the COVID-19 or potentially suspected to have it, like they've had a test and you're waiting a result? If they answer yes to that, they're out your door. You're not treating that patient. And the next one is, have you traveled outside the country in the past 14 days? And actually in Texas right now, it's pretty much if you've been outside of our state, we're kind of quarantining everybody coming in from any state. It's a mandatory, like Louisiana, it's a mandatory 14-day self-quarantine if you're coming in from Louisiana right now. So yes to any of those questions, you're rescheduling those patients a minimum of 14 days out. Again, I said, wipe down the tables between every patient. And I hope you guys are doing that on a regular basis anyways, but the only difference is we're really layering the stuff on right now and letting it air dry. Wash your hands with soap and water between every patient. And I know some offices aren't very conducive to that. So then you want to make sure you're using like your Purell, anything that's 65% alcohol or above. This is a pretty wimpy virus when it comes to alcohol. It dies almost immediately with contact with alcohol. You got to have 65% or above so you can use your Purell if your sinks or something aren't ready available for you. Again, clean your office before you go home. Wipe down all your surfaces and make sure everything's clean from there. And then some doctors are electing to, or offices are having doctors and staff wear gloves and masks. I opt not to. That's my decision. I don't use gloves because I don't wash my hands when I wear gloves. I don't want to touch one, and I'm not going to go through 100 pair of gloves a day. So I just wash hands between patients. In my opinion, on the whole mask thing, that is really just a self-preference, what you want to do. I'm choosing not to use a mask right now. I've done a lot of research into this virus, and I know that the biggest form of transmission is not so much air droplets through the air, it's actually contact with the hands to the face. So, a mask a lot of times will keep people from touching their faces. So if you're one of these people, like I noticed Randall earlier, I was watching him and he had his hands on his face the whole time Tony was on the air. Make sure you're washing your hands constantly. So that's some of the stuff you definitely want to have in place at your office. And I'm sure a lot of it was stuff you've already been doing. You're just going to be a lot more diligent doing that, protecting those patients. And I had somebody ask me the question, if you had a patient that was COVID positive, would you treat them? And in my office, the answer would be no, because if they do, I got to self-quarantine for 14 days. It's going to shut my office down. So anybody that I know that has the infection, we're not treating right now at this point. So then how do we translate what we do at the office to our home? And so this is, I think, something a lot of doctors don't really think about. So when you walk out of your office, you've been touching people all day. You can bring bugs home on your clothes, other stuff. So I used to work in an ER, and so I just take the same things we used to do. So what I do is I wash up with soap and water before leaving the office. When I get home, I step right into my laundry room, strip out of my clothes. They go right into the washer, start washing the clothes, and I take a shower before I come in contact with anybody from my family. At home, you should be wiping down your surfaces, same thing that you do at the office. Door handles, light switches, countertops, make sure you're wiping those down on a regular basis. Man, you really want to keep your circle small at home right now. What I tell my kids is that, I'm sorry you can't have a bunch of friends over and whatever. So we're really just keeping family at our house. And actually in Texas, we have that's kind of the law right now. You're not supposed to be leaving your home unless it's necessary. We have a curfew in place. So I don't know what's happening in other states, but just keep your circles really small. You don't want a lot of contact. And here's the deal is that, somebody's healthy and, everybody on this panel is healthy, in good shape. So the chances of this thing killing one of us are slim, but you really don't want to take that home if you got a grandmother or somebody who's 80, 85 years old, because they're the ones we really want to be careful of right now. And by the way, that's one other thing I tell you is that if you're treating patients in your office, I'd be real careful bringing elderly in when you got an office full of people. So that's something you might want to have designated times when you're bringing elderly patients in right now. That's something that can definitely help you on that side. So I take a shower, wipe down the surfaces, keep your family small. Listen, the other big thing is we have got to maintain our own health right now. And so you got to make sure you're taking your supplementation. I'm not going to get big into what you should be taking, but I would think everybody here should be on, good multivitamin, vitamin C, zinc, vitamin D, at the very minimum right now. There's a lot of other stuff we can take. Make sure you're getting out and getting some exercise. Get out in the sunlight. Please get out from the indoors and get out into the sunlight. The sunlight is huge for our immunity and vitamin D production. And sleep. Sleep is essential. You want to be getting, I don't know about y'all, I'm an 8-hour-a-night guy. That's my sweet spot. I don't hit it a lot, but at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep a night right now to maintain that system. And then the other thing is that this thing you're carrying around right here, if you're not disinfecting this on a regular basis, man, that's a huge mistake, because, you know, they got studies that show that the cell phone is dirtier than most public toilets. So think about that. Would you go put your face on a toilet seat in a public toilet? Probably not. So definitely make sure you're disinfecting your cell phones on a regular basis. And you know, Apple just recently has come out and said they started recommending wiping down with like Clorox bleach towelettes. They had said in the past they didn't want to do that, but they just did a test where they wiped an iPhone 8 like 6,000 times, and it did not hurt the function of it. And this right here, I'll tell you, this is huge when you're out and about in public. So make sure you've got your hand sanitizer, your Purell. If you don't have any, good luck finding it right now. Thank God we had a bunch in our office right now. So when you're out in public, man, constantly just squeeze this stuff on your hands and wipe your hands down. So, you know, you walk, you hit an elevator button, disinfect your hands. Touch a doorknob, disinfect your hands. Keep your hands clean, because again, the primary transmission, and this is coming out of some of the top doctors in New York City right now, is hands to face. So you really want to, so I heard the term, one of the doctors said you want to be a face Nazi. Don't touch your face. Keep your hands away from your face. Keep your hands clean. So that's pretty much what I've got right now. You know, I think that this whole ordeal is going to really change a lot of the way that we've done stuff in the past. You know, I always said, you know, electronics have kind of caused the social distancing that I'm not real fond of anyways. And so now we got social distancing that's mandatory. And unfortunately, I have a bad feeling, you know, when you go to the store here for, I don't know, the next 6 months or a year or so, you know, people are going to shun away from giving a hug or that kind of stuff. And I just think we're going to see a big change in a lot of this stuff's going to kind of stay in place. So one of the things I'll tell you is that keeping your hands clean, keeping your hands away from your face are huge just at all times. I mean, that's how flu is passed on most of the time and all that stuff. So anyways, that's pretty much what I've got for you. The CDC has the guidelines on their website. You can print up posters, put them up on your walls. I've got several up in the office. If you have any questions, you're welcome to get in touch with me, Dr. Rob at Ergo-Flex-Technologies.com. You can email me, or any questions on this topics tonight, and any of the other docs that you need to get in touch with. You can get in touch with me. If you don't have their information, I'll be happy to get that with you. So that's what I've got for you. Back to you, Randall.
Right.
Thanks, guys.
Well, Oliver made a great point, made a more of a comment and not a question, but he said you would think that all these steps that are suggestions should be written down and placed in their patient files. This should help protect your practice legally. Would you agree?
I mean, you know, so yeah, so I mean, like the sheet that they come in, they fill out, and so we from the 3 questions, we have them sign that and date it, and then we record their temperature on there as well. So we have their temperature on there. I mean, but you know, I mean, yeah, I don't have all this stuff listed out that I clean my tables on it. I mean, you know, like I said, this is stuff I hope y'all are doing on a regular basis anyways. You just want to be a little more, and I tell my patients when they come in that these are the steps we're taking right now to ensure your safety in our office. So, and I haven't had one patient yet who's been like, you know, wow, that seems a little over the top or anything like that. So just communicate to the patients that you're thinking about them, and I'll tell you, they'll be really appreciative. I know my patients right now, I have several patients walking in on a daily basis. They're like, I'm so glad you guys are open right now. I just need an adjustment. You know, my back's hurting, or, you know, we have a lot of people coming in just go, I want to make sure my body's functioning at the top level. So they're coming and getting regular adjustments. We're offering a few different specials right now for that. And I'll let some of the other docs going to talk about some of the marketing stuff, talk about that. So.
Right. Have you implemented any written policies on the procedures for patients coming in and what that looks like?
You know, I have the sheet with the 3 questions on it. So they're going to, you know, and we're using that at my office. I can get that. I can get a copy of that and put that up on the Ergo-Flex Resource Center.
Okay.
So that's available on the Docs Resource Center. That probably will not go up until Monday because I won't be in the office till Monday because today's Thursday. I'm not working the next 3 days. So.
Right. And I probably think if you have these policies in place, so it's patient facing, that it'd probably be a good practice to put it on your website to let them know what that may be, whether it's you know, I know I went by the joint here recently and and they had people standing outside and they would only allow 2 people in their clinic at a time.
Right.
So
What's the
maybe,
joint? No, I'm just playing with
well,
you.
yeah, exactly. What is the joint? That was the only place that was open. I didn't go myself, but so, well, thanks for doing a wonderful job and explaining how I rub my face. Hey, I just grew out this beard, so I was hoping the beard would protect me.
You know, it's probably trapping the coronavirus as you're talking right now.
Yeah, right. So and next up is he probably needs no introduction, but Dr. Barlow, and he's going to talk about how you can market and it doesn't cost them. I'm going to you if you could do me a favor you should receive Andy a request for you to become the host. That way we can actually see you and your desktop.
Where is it
Send
again?
it over to you. It should just pop up on your desk there and you can claim it.
Well, can you hear me okay?
Oh yeah, we can hear you fine.
Okay. I'm clicking it on, but I don't know why it won't come up. It's in the top right-hand corner.
Yeah. Well, you don't let that stop you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Well, if it's, we'll try one more time and see. All right. So first of all, Tony, I want to thank you for spending all this time with all the numbers and man, that was incredible. I've already taken 3 pages of notes from you and Rob. And Rob, thank you so much for that information. I already see some things that have to be implemented, changed, improved. So what we want to talk about, or I'm going to spend the next few minutes with, is how to market yourself without costing you anything except your time. Well, to start with, Rob just gave us a ton of information that we can videotape and say, hey, everybody, just want to let you know that we're open. This is what I'm going to be doing Monday and sending it out. And I'm doing a video. And you can put it on Facebook, you can put it on YouTube, but just let people know, hey, we're open and we're following the CDC guidelines and this is what we're doing. So just be prepared every time you come in that we're going to check your temperature. We've got to ask you some questions to see if you've come in contact with anybody or if you've been out of the country. If you are, we're going to ask that you reschedule 2 weeks from now, 14 days. There's a lot of things that we need to focus on with marketing. I mean, like I said, I just came up with a lot of things right here. Like Rob said, these people think that, honest to God, people think that when you have this mandatory, whatever it's called, shutdown, I can't remember exactly the term that they use, but they honestly think that unless you're going to the hospital or to the grocery store, no one else is open. And they literally think, and I've spoken to people like this, they literally think that they're getting $1,000 fine, like you're going to have the police Nazi pulling everybody over if they're on the street. And if you don't have your little hall pass, like we did when we were in, junior high school, you're going to get a fine. And it's just not that way. But again, you have to understand that not everybody is an alpha male or an alpha female. 99% of these people are sheep. Okay. They heard something from somebody else that didn't know what they were talking about, and now it's the gospel fact. So just be aware of that. If you don't tell them, you've got mainstream media telling them, and then by the time these people hear these things through their own filters, it becomes gospel to them. So unless you tell them in plain English, hey, I am open, and these are the guidelines that we're adhering to. Our number one job here is safety and optimizing your health and let's getting through this. So that's one of the things that I'm going to be doing Monday when I get back in the office, is shooting a video on that. The key thing too is what I've done is in the last week, I've shot over 30 videos. Most of these videos are 90 seconds to 3 minutes. I don't try to go beyond 3 minutes, but sometimes you're talking about things and it just happens that way. And I will be more than happy if I need to on a Tuesday or whatever. I'm going to give you my email address, and if doctors that's on here, we have 37 doctors, and if I need to spend a half a day to go over this in person, I'll be more than happy to do this. But my email, now if you guys think you have my email address, I set a new email up just for this webinar. So it's Dr. Barlow DC at yahoo.com. So again, Dr. Barlow DC at yahoo.com. So what we can do with these 90-second commercials, if you will, or just educational minutes, is talk to people about numbness in their feet. I don't care how bad things get. People still can't sleep at night because their feet are burning because of peripheral neuropathy or plantar fasciitis. And what we need to do is simplify each individual step. So that's what I've done is I've shot, like I said, 90-minute to 3-minute videos, and just each step of the way, like what is it that can cause peripheral neuropathy? Why do you have this burning and numbness in the feet, and why has no one else been able to help you? Like, for example, number one could be chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy. One could be diabetic, and number three would be that you have an L5 nerve root damage or an entrapment, or it could be a combination of all three. And today we're going to spend just 90 seconds talking about that. And then that's just one video. And then the next video is you talk about, how does this nerve travel from your back to the back of your leg down to your foot? And then also, where are the entrapments? And then why are your feet cold versus numbness and tingling? And I know a lot of you don't know this because you're not a board certified chiropractic neurologist, and I am, and this is what I study. This is what I do for a living. But I would be more than happy to sit down and literally draw this out and track every step of the way for numbness in the foot. Also, plantar fasciitis. What about knee pain? Just because COVID-19 is out there, people didn't stop having knee pain. They didn't stop having peripheral neuropathy or plantar fasciitis. What about numbness and tingling in the hand? Just so that you know, from your cervical spine to your shoulder, there are 3 possible entrapment sites just for carpal tunnel and ulnar neuritis and radial nerve damage, just between your cervical spine and your shoulder. So what are those? How do you test those 3 entrapment sites? And then how do you, if they have this problem, how do you elicit the pain to find out if they actually have it? And then how do you solve the problem? And see, these are things that are easy to do and easy to spend 90 seconds to 3 minutes talking about. And then once you get from your shoulder into your hand, we have 3 peripheral nerves. And here's the amazing thing. Each one of those peripheral nerves can be entrapped in 3 different areas. And if you don't know these entrapment sites, these people are going to the doctor, they're having carpal tunnel surgery, and they're not getting any results because, all of these people are having numbness in the hands, but there's at least 6 entrapment sites that are known for each nerve, okay, that comes out of your spine and goes into your hand. So 3 from the cervical spine to the shoulder, and then again, each peripheral nerve, which are 3 in the upper extremity, can be entrapped in 3 different locations. So those are the things that we're doing. We're putting it on Facebook, we're putting it on YouTube, we're putting it on our website so that people can have access. And the key thing is, I promise you, and I think all these doctors will back me up on this, if you don't make contact with your patients and your existing patients, and you don't tell the world you're open, they're assuming you're closed. You know why? Because all the restaurants they went to in the past, they're all closed. They're doing curbside service. Okay, some of them, not all of them. But again, it's our job to let the public know that we're open, we're here to serve you, you're going to be in a safe, clean environment, and these are the standards that we're going to live up to with what the CDC says. And then two, we do have masks in our clinic that we have patients, we give them the option. It's like, if you want it, it's here. If you don't want it, no big deal. So I don't want to push my personal thought processes on whether to use a mask or not. This person is in here to improve the quality of their life. And I'm not going to freak out if somebody wears a mask, and I'm not going to freak out if somebody doesn't wear a mask. And, you know, and I don't freak out if somebody comes in with gloves on. Everybody is doing what they feel like they need to do to help them get through this. So with that being said, I don't have any PowerPoints. I just wanted to come in and talk about the things that we're doing. And again, let me just say this. We've done a lot of outside talks in the past. We're looking at actually doing talks just like we're doing here with Zoom, but we're going to be doing them, instead of doing outside talks at lunches, we're going to be doing them in our office, and we're going to be hitting a mass group of people. Here's the thing. We were headed in that direction anyway, okay? What happened with the COVID-19, it just made us put the afterburners on and do things faster than what we actually wanted to do. Meaning, I think everybody would agree that we're moving away from doing lunch workshops and doing more online education, which is really good because you can do everything at home or in your clinic, and then you have 25, 30, 40 people that's online that's watching you speak. And then once you do this the first time, you can actually record it. And if you have an awesome computer guy, what he can do is mark it for you and then just put the webinar out as though it's live. And that's running for you every single day. And here's the thing, we've got, I think, 9 different conditions that we're going to be talking about on our webinars. And they're going to be about 30 minutes a piece. They're going to be recorded, and then we're going to market it that. Now, of course, that's going to cost you money to put it on Facebook and market it that way. But the point here is, if you're not comfortable public speaking or speaking in front of a camera, well, that's just tough shit. It's time to get comfortable. And the only way you're going to get comfortable is you're going to have to do it. And I can promise you, I've been a public speaker for decades. And when you start speaking in front of a camera, it is an entirely different ball game, because you don't have a crowd there to feed off of. You've got this thing that's looking at you that's non-responsive. It's just like, duh. So it's a totally different way of communicating, and you have to get used to it. I'm going to give you an example, and maybe you can use this example for your benefit. I remember 10 years ago, I told Faye, I said, hey, I'm going to shoot this ADD, ADHD video, and I'm going to knock this thing out in about 45 minutes. We're going to go to dinner. Where you want to go? Well, 3 hours later, I'm still in there trying to figure out how to talk to this camera. And it literally took me 5 weekends to get this thing right. Now, after I finally figured out how to do it and kind of mastered the camera, if you will, I shot like 14 in one weekend. But it took me 5 weekends of just back-to-back doing it. And the only way you're going to get used to it and comfortable with it is get in front of the camera and start talking. And so if I can help you in any way, let me just give everybody my cell phone number, because it's not we got 36 people, and so that's not going to be a big deal. But you can call me at 662-231-2236. And again, 662-231-2236. If I don't call you right back, don't be insulted by it. I have a lot of people that call me. And I mean, when I call Tony, Rob and Randall and Buzz, I don't get bent out of shape when they don't answer the phone. Hey, we're busy people. So just call me back. I'll be more than happy to talk to you. But we get a group of people together. I can't sit down and spend 4 hours talking to one person. I will, and I'm giving you my word, I'm giving you my commitment that I will make a time over the next couple of weeks where we can do a video, and I'll show you exactly how we can communicate with these patients and start getting these videos out. And again, they don't cost you anything. And again, I'm not here preaching to you. If you just go on YouTube and YouTube Dr. Andy Barlow, I've got shit tons, I don't know how many that is, but it's a lot of videos on everything from knee, peripheral neuropathy so just look that up, and I'm here to help you. So Dr. Andy Barlow D.C. at yahoo.com. Send me an email or call me. And again, Tony, Rob, Randall, appreciate you. Buzz, thank you for being here. I always get a wealth of information from all you guys, and it's just an honor to be on the same webinar with you. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. If not, Randall, take it away for me.
All right. Hey, man, thanks. If you have any questions, again, like he had said, just put them here. Elizabeth will take them. She'll also post Dr. Barlow's information that he just said there in the chat feature for you to get it. And like I said, we can get you the answers to the question. It may not be right away, but we'll eventually get them for you. So, so we finally make it to our final speaker or final presenter. We have a little technical difficulties here, but as long as you get are you fine with the audio? That's all that counts. You don't need to necessarily see our faces, at least I hope.
Well,
Dr.
you did Bud and Randall and Rob. I mean, you know, man, that's just part of it. You know, when when the ladies go to Chippendale, they want to see the whole package. You know, so.
I think I'm more like the Farley, the Chunkendale.
Oh man, Randall, you are hilarious, man.
So, Dr. Buzz, you want to go ahead and take it from here? We'll unmute you and let you take it from here. And I'm gonna see if I can figure out how to where people can see a full screen of you and not have to look at this agenda.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yep. We got you.
Perfect. Yeah. No, Randall, once again, thanks for putting this together. Rob, Tony, Andy, learned a ton of information today, so I'm definitely happy to be on here. I'm going to kind of summarize a little bit, and the first thing I want to make sure everyone's clear on is, what's more dangerous than even this virus is the fear and panic that people have. And as leaders in our community, we have to stay calm and keep this in perspective. Obviously any death is too many deaths, but the reality of this disease is it's, 60 and above compromised health are the people that really that are at risk. So just keep this in perspective. This will pass. I'm kind of looking at this as maybe a little bit of a pause in some of the business, but it's also an opportunity. And anything in life that happens that you perceive that is bad or is perceived as bad has to have an equal upside to it. That's just the way life works. So, the first thing you have to remember is you have to be confident, and your staff have to be confident and see you. If you're in panic, your staff will perceive it, your patients will perceive it, and that's not what we need right now. We need leaders at this point. I agree with you, Randall. Take care of yourself. Now is the time. Take your vitamins, eat proper, get good sleep. Get adjusted. All this stuff. Your patients have to see this happening with you, and you have to lead by example at this point. Something else that's really important right now is the perfect time to increase your public relations and communication. People now are home, and something we've done at our office. And I have a friend in Kentucky who, he's unfortunately, Kentucky is one of the states they actually told chiropractors they have to close down, which makes no sense because we know chiropractic can help your immune system, but they just have a terrible state board. But, we are literally calling every single patient. The doctor, I'm calling. Our other doctors are literally just reaching out to our patients and saying, we're thinking about them. We're here to help. What we're offering is, you can come in and, we're open because, as Andy said, a lot of people don't even realize we're open. So when they call, they don't realize we're open. And we're also letting them know that, if they're first responder or if unfortunately they've been laid off, we'll actually treat them for free at this point, to help them, help them with their health and their immune system. And just they're reaching out to patients, they really like that, taking advantage of that. And also let them know what we're doing to ensure their safety. Rob had a lot of good ideas. So, we're cleaning the office. We're not allowing patients to gather up in the office. And we're here to serve them. We want to, chiropractic is essential, and whatever services you have, this is essential, and we're definitely here to serve them. I think you also want to up your email communication. We've been emailing our patients twice a week. People are home. They have time now. This is not going to annoy them. And what can you email them? Like home exercises, maybe vitamins, maybe some of Rod's information, what they can do to keep their household clean. Anything you can do to help them through this situation. Once again, we're leaders in healthcare at this point. Anything we can give to our patients, so they're going to appreciate. I mentioned calling all of our patients. You would be surprised how effective that's been. Last week, we had a ton of starts. A lot of patients, when we called them, hadn't been in for a while. They ended up coming in last week. I think, something else that's happening right now, at least in Ohio, is we've been on lockdown a little longer than most places. People are going stir crazy. So if they have an excuse to get out of the house, they're coming in. And a lot of people, it might not apply to some people here. We do a lot of bioidentical hormones. Part of that is they got to come and do blood work. No one has time for blood work. They're sitting at home with nothing to do. So we had a bunch of people start up last week, not only in their chiropractic care, but to get on hormones because they have the time to come do the blood work. So we had one of our busiest weeks ever last week, just making those phone calls out to people and saying, if you want to come here, we're here to serve you. You can, basically reactivations, and then the Facebook Live videos. Facebook Live videos are free, guys. And I think one thing that I became guilty of, and I think some other people get guilty of too, I talked to Andy about it a little bit, is when things were booming, we got lazy and let the basics fall out. And when I say the basics, asking for referrals, free Facebook and Instagram videos, and we were doing all the expensive stuff, dinner lectures and radio ads and TV. That stuff costs a lot of money. We cut back on that and just gone back to the basics, asking for referrals, these free Facebook ads, emailing your patients. This stuff doesn't cost anything and it's very effective. I think another thing that we kind of do is, obviously the stuff you're marketing now might change a little bit too. So, we do a bunch of neuropathy like Andy. We've kind of cut back on a little bit because you got to think your average neuropathy patient is a diabetic or an older type patient, and those people are a little more at risk, and maybe focus on plantar fasciitis could be a good thing, or whatever you treat in your office, something that the demographic, I think between 25 and 55, those people are still coming out and treating. So, maybe don't market as much to the older population, but maybe to some of the younger population in those type of conditions. Because we've cut back on our marketing budget, our expenses have gone way down. So we're passing those on to the patients. It's a great time to offer some type of discounts. So if you're saving money on marketing, we're often, our offices, we're offering 25% off all cash services, but our biggest expense was our marketing budget. So even, so we're saving money at that. I definitely, another thing is this is a good time, I think, to run lean and mean. Unfortunately, we did lay off some people, but some of the people we laid off, when we're looking back, they weren't really key players anyways. And I don't know if anyone else has had to do that here. So, look at your team, and the key players are the ones you want to keep. And maybe if you have a little bit of extra fat, now's the time to not have them around. And then the final thing, I think that we all have to be smart. And like Tony said, you're never going to see loans like this again. So even if you don't need it, I think you should apply, because we don't know how long this is going to last. You don't want to wait until you're out of money to need a loan, because these things are going to take some time. So definitely take advantage of this, apply for those loans. I mean, it's almost going to be free money, or, if done properly with Tony's guidance. So definitely take advantage of this. But just remember, this is just going to be a pause. We're going to come back. The economy was amazing before this whole thing happened. It's going to bounce back really strong. Reach out to your patients, get in communication, and use this as a time to get, the other thing we did at our office is we're doing some painting and some cleanup work. All the stuff that you didn't have time to do when you were busy before, get it done now, because you're never going to have time like this again. So take advantage of this time. Some doctors are literally just closed up and doing nothing, sitting home watching the news, which is the worst thing you do. Get ready, because it's going to boom when this thing's over, guys. Don't wait until it gets over and you're booming again. So, oh man, I should have done this or done that. Clean up house, make videos like Andy's doing, reach out, do all your free marketing stuff. Take advantage of this time, because you're never going to have time like this again.
Well, again, thanks everybody for coming on, Dr. Buzz. Thanks for all that great information. Being an outside person, you guys are all DCs, and seeing, how well you guys work. Because y'all are competitors, but maybe you're not in the same market. Just to witness from the outside, because, you work in certain industries, they don't work with each other like you see doctors in DC. So it's really nice as an outside person, seeing how you just guys want to help each other. You're going through the same thing that everybody on this call, and you took the time to at least come on here, and that says a lot about your character. And these are the times where character is built. But I would be remiss if I didn't introduce the people who really took the time to make this happen. I'm going to see if I can get you, Linda. are you? I'm gonna click this button. Hopefully it works for you. I know.
I clicked
Are
it.
you there?
Can you hear me? Can you hear us?
I can totally hear you.
Okay.
We got you. We can't see you, but
Well,
that'd be fine.
dadgum, I got all dressed up for nothing.
Yeah, I combed
You
my
did
hair.
get all dolled up.
Well, listen, JT and I are here, and I'll just go first, and then I know he wants to say a few words, and we both appreciate you, Randall, and Liz for pulling this all together, and every speaker, Dr. Tony, Dr. Rob, Dr. Andy, and Dr. Buzz for all taking time out of your busy life to be here. And Candy too. I don't know if you're still on there, Candy. I can't see. But just appreciate you guys coming together and helping us get this out there. And we appreciate each and every doctor that has been on this call. Every bit of this information was amazing. It's not just for chiropractors, it's for everybody. You know, I'm the same way. I took 3 or 4 pages of notes myself. And again, it's just been a great opportunity to get together. There's so many on here I know that we haven't seen or talked to in such a long time. So we appreciate everything that everybody has done to make this a reality, and there will be others. So JT?
I don't know what I could add to that other than, you know, I saw here that, you know, Dr. Buzz is, you know, steps to turn COVID-19 into an opportunity. I believe, and I believe this very, very, very highly, that the general public or the public out there that is going through this, they will remember one thing, and that's the immune system. And I believe that is going to be the opportunity, because I believe they'll come, you're going to be able to pick up a lot more patients now because of what you hear on TV all the time. It's your immune system, it's your diabetes, it's things of that nature. So I think this is an opportunity. So just everyone hang in there, don't panic. If you don't have a few patients coming in there, go up to your office and change it up a little bit. So even paint it or whatever you want to do, but don't sit at home and think about all this. It is going to end. And again, I want to thank each and every one of y'all. That's pretty much it for me. I mean, it's just, it's a hard thing to go through, but we'll all get through it. Thank y'all.
Yeah, and I agree. There's going to be an awakening of people taking better care of their health, because the one thing that's been clear is the people who've been affected the most by this virus are people who are unhealthy.
Yeah.
So there is going to be an awakening afterwards, kind of like after 9/11, security, you know, the awakening is we need to be tighter with our security, right? And it brought everyone together. After this, people are really going to realize that they can't take their health for granted.
Right.
And this is going to be a huge opportunity, and who better to serve them than chiropractors?
And if I could say one thing, just to, for what JT had said, you know, stop watching TV.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about CNN, Fox, all of that. All right. Get off the damn internet, unless you're shooting a video and putting it on there. Here's another thing I'm going to recommend. If your office is closed, don't stay your ass at home. Go up to the office and create, here we go, wait for it, a thought process. Okay. And that thought process is, how do I improve my communication? How do I improve my marketing? How do I communicate better with my patients? You know, and you know what? You're going to have to start doing things that are uncomfortable. And so, like I said, you may have to get in front of a camera. You may have to start actually calling people on the phone just to say, you know what? I guarantee you, if you called anybody up and just said, "Hi, Miss Smith, this is Dr. Barlow. I just wanted to check in with you just to make sure to remind you to wash your hands 25 seconds. You know, anytime you come in contact with someone." It doesn't have to be something like earth shattering and the heavens are going to open. It's the fact that you call somebody. But my thing is, if you're supposed to be at the office at 8 o'clock Monday morning, don't stay your ass at home. Get up to the office and stay in your office or whatever. Walk around, get off the internet, Think about what you need to do to improve the quality of your clinic and communication in your patients' lives. That's what I wanted to say. If you're get off the PlayStation, if that's even a thing now, I don't know. But it's easy when shit goes south to go in and do just stupid stuff and try to think of play games or whatever. Stop doing that. That's not the time for this. Get in the clinic and meditate. Think about what you need to do and move forward. And again, I gave everybody my phone number, so give me a call. And if you need a good swift kick in the ass, I'll give you one for free. Thank you.
Now, let me add one more thing to that too, because and Buzz, I like what you said, because your title says opportunities, right? And we've seen a number of people try to take the low hanging fruit, right? Immune boosting supplements and all these other things they're trying to promote right now. But the true value in what you're doing right now and how you really build your business is how you treat the people that care about you and the people you care about. And so
if you have a phone, you can make that opportunity. You don't even need to get on the phone and call your patients.
That's what it's about. It's just a courtesy to call them. That is what's going to build the relationships, and that builds value a long time. It's not about trying to sell them something right now that you think you may not benefit them.
Correct. And like I said, last week, I'm not saying this to brag, we had more starts. Last week was a booming week for us just by being on the phones. So if you have a phone, you can do what we did.
I've had 2 doctors that have had their biggest prepays in the last week during this whole time, because they're just doing the right stuff. So I appreciate what everybody's said on this panel tonight, because it's spot on to how we need to be, our character in this whole event. And people are going to see that when it's all said and done.
Right.
They're going to look right through that, and you can build a relationship or you destroy a relationship.
Yep.
The other thing is that all of us are in the same damn boat. This isn't like this is affecting certain people. It's affecting all of us.
All of us.
And so if you're on your couch and whining your ass off, I'm sorry. I don't feel sorry for you. You got to get out and do something. And let me tell you, these guys that are on the panel with me, these other 3 docs here, I mean, these are guys that I feel are big mentors in our field. I mean, they're great friends of mine, and I appreciate what they do. But one of the things I know is if I was at home, I'd be getting a phone call from probably all 3 of them kicking my ass right now. Okay. And so, just get out and do something. It's not that this is not rocket science. I mean, we were talking with Buzz, we were talking on Tuesday, and he said, we started picking up the phone. I'm like, oh, you went old school. I mean, that's what we used to do back in the day. We used to call, we used to do recalls, right? I mean, so go back to what you used to do. I mean, between the 4 of us here, I think we got probably 100 years in practice. I mean, I'm going into my 27th year right now of practice. We didn't have all that crap when we first started off. So go back and do and work on how you built your practice originally. And guess what? People actually have time, and people are dying for interaction. So you call them and you say, hey, what's up? Hey, Sally, what's going on? Man, Sally's just happy to talk to somebody beside her dog.
People are answering the phones. I bet you over half the people, normally they won't answer the phone. Everyone answers their phone now.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah. I want to, since everybody else got to add a thought, I want to say this is you should be thanking CNN and Fox News. They're doing one thing that none of us have enough money to do. And that was they're educating everyone to care about their health, which they should have been doing. But somebody that they look to on television every night, from Sean Hannity to Don Lemon, to tell them you should care about your health. And they're doing it all for free. And like you said, at some point, people will come back and they will care about their health more than they did before. And they'll reach out to people, that have stayed in contact with them or showed them that they were open. And I'll give you a perfect example. When O.J. Simpson, remember when he was in the he was the guy, his buddy.
White Bronco,
can't remember driving.
Yeah, the white Bronco.
White Ford Bronco sales increased like 14% the following month just because it was on TV.
Yeah. Hey, but do you know what? So all these liquor sales are going up 55%. Patron's like 70-something% higher.
Yeah.
Do you know what's happened to Corona? Yeah. Corona's been screwed this whole deal.
Well, I think that we've added anything else you guys want to add before we let everybody get back to watching the news.
No, I appreciate every one of you guys and what you guys are doing and contributing. So it's great to be around people.
Thank every one of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
Amazing. I appreciate
Hey,
it.
Thanks,
JT
guys.
has something. JT would like to say one more thing, guys.
Can
Go ahead.
y'all hear me?
Yes.
You know how the politicians all get out there every time it's election time, and they all say it's the economy, stupid. You know, that's how they get elected, or what they run on is the economy. After all of this is just say it's the immune system, stupid.
It's like that.
Take care of it.
Yeah.
So,
All right, every guy. Well, you guys have a
thank
good week.
all of y'all.
Thank
All
y'all.
right.
Y'all have a good
Thank
evening.
everyone that was
Bye.
listening to us today. Hope this has helped.
Yep. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Y'all.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.